Brooklyn's Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio is saying there's a better way to fix New York City's mass transit problems than with a pot tax. Emily Druby, and that story is coming up.
The secret Vatican archives about Pope Pius XII are being unsealed. Why Pope Francis is taking the action. A joyous celebration marking the rededication of Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal Church in Queens. Plus, the growing controversy over vaccinating children against preventable diseases is the subject of a hearing on Capitol Hill. The news starts right now.
How can we encourage people to smoke pot?
Brooklyn's Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio reacting to news New York's top leaders are pushing a pot tax to fund mass transit. Good evening, I'm Ed Wilkinson. Liz Faublas is off. The Catholic leader of Brooklyn and Queens has long warned of the dangers of marijuana. Now Mayor Bill de Blasio and Governor Andrew Cuomo are saying a tax on pot would raise money to fix the subways and buses. Currents News' Emily Druby is here with more on the story. Emily?
Ed, there's always a scramble to find money for New York subways and buses, but a new plan to help fix mass transit with a tax on marijuana is something that's causing a lot of talk and concern tonight, especially from Bishop DiMarzio.
We're looking for trouble because it is a gateway drug for many people.
Bishop DiMarzio, an outspoken critic of marijuana's dangers, is concerned about the plan to pay for mass transit improvements with a pot tax.
We've practically stopped people from smoking cigarettes because we wanted to make them more healthy. Now, because we can tax it, we think it's going to be good, that we have a whole new industry of running around marijuana, and that people are not going to be stoned when they're driving the car and have accidents. I don't see the wisdom in this.
New York Governor Andrew Cuomo and New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio teaming up to release a 10-point plan on how they will transform the MTA and pay for it, including raising money through congestion pricing tolls where people would have to pay more to drive south of 61st Street in Manhattan. Those tolls would be supplemented by a new internet sales tax and with, quote, a percentage of the state and city revenue from the cannabis excise tax, referring to the likely but not yet hammered out legalization of recreational marijuana in New York endorsed by both politicians. They say the money from congestion pricing and the two taxes would fund new signaling for the subway, new subway cars, subway track and car repair, accessibility, buses and bus system improvements, and expanding transit availability to areas with limited mass transit options. Monsignor Joseph Nugent, who has spent much of his life working with recovering addicts in the Brooklyn Diocese, echoes the bishop's concerns over the plan.
Interestingly enough, over the years, the one thing that has surfaced over and over and over again is, well, I began smoking weed. It was an entrance-level drug that led to the destructive cycle that was destroying families, people, and society.
Monsignor Nugent's biggest worry, the impact of addiction.
It's destroying, someone who has been created in the image and likeness of God. The preciousness, the sacredness of our life is being attacked by our own government.
The tax, of course, depends on the state legalizing recreational marijuana, which is not yet a reality. Ed?
Emily, in the past, I thought Governor Cuomo was against recreational marijuana. What changed the tune?
For a really long time, he was against it, at least for his first 2 terms. He's even called it a gateway drug, but that changed recently. It could have something to do with the $300 million in tax revenues that legalizing marijuana could bring.
Of course. Thanks, Emily. New York's new law, the Extreme Reproductive Health Act, that removes virtually all restrictions on abortion, is under fire tonight. Because of that law, the death of an unborn baby from a violent assault on a pregnant mom would not be a separate crime. Now there's a proposal to change that. New York State Senator Catherine Young is a sponsor.
When violence is done to a pregnant woman, her reproductive freedom is trampled, and the law should continue to provide a remedy recognizing this harm.
Backing the bill in the State Assembly is Marcos Crespo, a Democrat who represents the Bronx, and he joins us now from Albany. Assemblyman, why is it important to protect the life of the unborn in this way?
I'll tell you, I have strong convictions personally in regards to when life begins and the life of a child in the womb. When a child or a pregnant mother is assaulted, and specifically instances where the intent of that assault was to end that life, it is my belief and that of many mothers who have unfortunately confronted this traumatic experience, that the law should recognize that loss and should punish those responsible for terminating that life in the womb. That individual who harmed her, who killed that child, should not go unpunished. Yes, there is an argument to be made that they will face other charges. There will be assault on the mother. Sometimes those charges carry significant penalties with them as well. But why can't the law acknowledge that a life in the womb was lost? Life who had been given a name, who had been expected, who had been celebrated, who had been acknowledged by everything culturally that we do as a society.
It seems like common sense. Why would lawmakers oppose this bill?
I think there's an inability by many who want to justify their ease of ending pregnancies, and they don't want to have their moral position challenged. I think the concept of acknowledging the life in the womb, makes it that much more difficult for them to justify supporting abortion. I have pregnant colleagues who are pro-choice who will say, my baby is kicking, and my baby, I can't wait, and we have the room set up, and we have everything ready for, to welcome this child, and my husband will sing to the baby. And I tell them, I did that with my 2 daughters.
Sure.
Isn't it amazing that somebody would want to end that pregnancy and claim that was never really a life that had any response or any emotions or any value? And the reaction was, maybe I went too far with them, but their reaction was, oh, but that's a different issue. I said, it's not a different issue. The fact of the matter is, we can't be so, go out of our way to protect one argument while ignoring something so powerful and so important.
And what is the likelihood that this will pass?
An honest answer, I don't see my colleagues changing their positions, but we will carry this bill and we will continue to hammer the message home, because it is important that we send the message out there that a life in the womb has value, and a life in the womb should be respected, and the law should recognize and protect those that would harm them just as they would harm anyone else.
Assemblyman, thank you so much for your time today.
I appreciate it.
Democrat leaders of the U.S. House are moving fast tonight to condemn anti-Semitism. A resolution to that effect is scheduled on the floor tomorrow. A split is developing among House Democrats over whether Congresswoman Ilham Omar should be named in the measure. Her latest statement about Israel, accusing Jewish activists of pushing America toward, quote, allegiance to a foreign country, is the cause of the resolution. President Trump tweeted this morning, Representative Ilham Omar is under fire for her terrible comments concerning Israel. Jewish groups have just sent a petition to Speaker Pelosi asking her to remove Omar from the Foreign Relations Committee, a dark day for Israel. Last month, Pelosi forced Omar to apologize for insinuating money donors and lobbyists were behind U.S. support for Israel. Documenting what Pope Pius XII did for Jews during the Holocaust is why the secret Vatican archives are being opened. The World War II pontiff took a number of actions to safeguard the Jews from Nazi persecution. Some modern critics claimed that he didn't do enough. Now Pope Francis is taking steps for the whole world to learn what Pius actually did by unsealing the files.
Assumo questa decisione sentito il parere dei miei più stretti collaboratori, con animo sereno e fiducioso, sicuro che la seria e oggettiva ricerca storica saprà valutare nella sua giusta luce, con appropriata critica, momenti di esaltazione di quei pontefici e senza dubbio anche momenti di gravi difficoltà, di tormentate decisioni, di umana e cristiana prudenza.
The Pius Archive will be released on March 2nd of next year. The process for his canonization is underway. In 2009, Pius was declared venerable. Turning now to the growing controversy in this country over medical vaccinations. The recent outbreaks of measles and other preventable diseases in the United States sparked a Senate hearing today. Karen Kafar has the story from Washington.
My name is Ethan Lindenberger, and I'm a senior at Norwalk High School. And my mother is an anti-vax advocate.
Ethan Lindenberger's Teen Rebellion made headlines last year. On Tuesday, he shared his story with senators.
I went my entire life without numerous vaccines against diseases such as measles, chickenpox, or even polio. However, in December 2018, I began catching up on my missed immunizations despite my mother's disapproval.
The hearing amid an increase in measles cases in the U.S., including recent outbreaks in Washington state and New York and around the world. Also on the rise, according to a CDC report last year, the percentage of young children receiving no vaccines. Senators digging into the spread of common fears and misinformation, especially via social media.
In your opinion, there's no evidence, reputable evidence, that vaccines cause autism?
There is absolutely no evidence at this time that vaccines cause autism.
Dr. O'Meara, do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
A study published Monday also rejects that idea, looking at around 650,000 children in Denmark over more than a decade and finding the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine, MMR, did not increase the risk of autism. Despite his new platform, Ethan Lindenberger hasn't swayed opinions at home.
I've tried to convey to my parents that I don't think that they are stupid for believing that, but that people are very convincing, and that's very dangerous.
He's caught up on his vaccinations, but has expressed concern about his younger siblings who have not. In Washington, Karen Kafa, Currents News.
What could be a big breakthrough in the fight against HIV is being reported tonight. Doctors are saying a man in London may be the second person to ever be cured of the viral infection. The new case comes more than 10 years after a patient in Berlin was declared free of the disease. Both underwent similar treatments involving stem cell donors genetically resistant to HIV. The infection affects close to 37 million people worldwide, with almost 1 million dying every year. Opposition leader Juan Guaido is calling for the downfall of Venezuelan strongman Nicolas Maduro. Guaido was surrounded by supporters in Caracas after returning from a Latin America tour. The self-proclaimed president is in a power struggle with Maduro over control of Venezuela. He had been threatened with arrest if he came back. The U.S. warned the Maduro regime against making any move against Guaido. Across the border in Colombia, Catholic churches are offering shelter to deserting Venezuelan soldiers and police officers. As political unrest increases, so too does the number of defectors, now estimated to be in the thousands. Colombia's churches are providing housing assistance to the new arrivals and help in applying for asylum. Most of the troops are in their 20s and said they were fed up with what one called a terrible dictatorship. There's a lot more news headed your way. The rededication of Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal Church in Queens, how the rebirth came about. The Pope's latest message on persecuted Christians. National correspondent Christopher White is here to explore what he said. And Catholic Charities is on the scene tonight after deadly tornadoes ripped through the South. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@thesalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. The blessing of Auxiliary Bishop James Masser at Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal Church in Queens, now reborn to serve many generations to come. For over a century, Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal has been a place of prayer and refuge for the people of Ridgewood. Now, after a 2-year renovation, the parish is being rejuvenated. Currents News' Katie Engesser has that story.
When you sit in Mass sometimes, I just can't help but sitting there and looking up at the stars. I think it's absolutely exquisite.
Parishioners of Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal Church are amazed as they see what's been accomplished in the place where they worship God.
I think it's fabulous.
Brooklyn Auxiliary Bishop James Massa blessed the newly renovated church Sunday in conjunction with the parish's 100th anniversary of serving the people of Ridgewood, Queens. Father Anthony Sansone is the pastor.
We needed to address the issues of the interior of the church.
Thanks to the Brooklyn Diocese's Generations of Faith fundraising campaign, many more generations will be able to witness stained glass windows dedicated to the Blessed Mother, as well as shrines for Our Lady of Czestochowa and Mary's mother, St. Anne. Bishop Massa talked about what's happened at Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal.
The cracks have been painted over, and many of the statuary and the beautiful images have been touched up. This is a wonderful history to the worship site of the church.
The Ridgewood Parish was established in 1917, but the faithful didn't have a church building right away. That took more than 10 years to create.
The first church or chapel for Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal was the first floor of the school, but it opened in August of 1929, within weeks of the Great Depression.
Despite the economic calamity, the Miraculous Medal Parish continued to grow, and in 1941 they finished their official church, shortly after another world-changing event, Pearl Harbor, and the beginning of World War II.
The church became kind of a place of refuge.
Now today's parishioners of Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal are providing for those who will follow.
We have about 1,200 people that come to Mass here every Sunday morning, so we're grateful to God for such an outpouring of devotion and commitment by parishioners.
Because of all of them and their sacrifices, the church is rejuvenated for the generations to come.
I think all of this is a way of making a big statement to the community that we have a future, and it kind of points people in the direction of the future with great hope.
In Ridgewood, Katie Angusser, Currents News.
Pope Francis is tackling the brutal problem of Christian persecution once again. This afternoon, he asked for prayers for believers around the world who face death for the simple act of making the sign of the cross. Here to discuss what the Holy Father is doing is national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, Christopher White. Christopher, the Pope is saying Christians are being killed because they speak the truth and proclaim Jesus Christ, and he wants the world to pray for them, and that's the Holy Father's intention for the month of March. So what impact is this papal action likely to have?
Well, these are sort of hard things to measure in the sort of immediate, immediacy. But I mean, one of the things, this is an issue that is constantly underrepresented in major media coverage. And for the Pope, arguably the most authoritative moral voice in the world, to sort of offer a megaphone to this is quite significant.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's one of the things the Pope is saying about the present-day martyrs who have died for the faith. Let's listen to this.
Quizás nos cueste creerlo, pero hoy hay más mártires que en los primeros siglos. Son perseguidos porque a esta sociedad le dicen la verdad y anuncian a Jesucristo. Esto sucede especialmente allí donde la libertad religiosa todavía no está garantizada.
According to the Pope's Foundation Aid to the Church in Need, religious freedom is gravely threatened in 38 countries, even in places where religion is allegedly protected. Here's something Francis had to say about that.
Pero también en países que en la teoría y en los papeles tutelan la libertad y los derechos humanos. Recemos para que las comunidades cristianas, en especial aquellas que son perseguidas, sientan la cercanía de Cristo y tengan sus derechos reconocidos.
So, Chris, is global persecution getting worse?
Yeah, I think, as the Pope said, it's certainly on the rise. We've had more martyrs, in the last century than in, all previous centuries combined, and this is why this issue is so close to the Pope's heart. You look at places, of course, where Christianity is sort of widespread, even in places like the Philippines, where there are attacks on Christians, and I think that's what the Pope is trying to really push back against.
Yeah. Well, the Pope's Worldwide Prayer Network says most cases of brutal anti-Christian violence goes unnoticed. Why doesn't the world's media pick up, give it this more attention?
Well, it's really difficult. I think one of the reasons is that this issue rightly makes us uncomfortable, and we tend to shy away from news that makes us uncomfortable, and we don't want to believe that something as grave as anti-Christian persecution is happening in our own backyards, even here in this country. So I think that's why often people will turn away from it and just say, I don't want to see that.
Yeah, well, Chris, in your travels around the world, be careful.
Thank you, Ed.
Thanks for being with us today.
Anytime.
The Catholic Church in Communist China is growing rapidly. Nearly 50,000 baptisms took place last year. The number is only a partial total in a country where the Beijing government has cracked down hard on Christianity. The data on new Chinese Catholics does not take into account all the baptisms celebrated by the underground church that is loyal to the Pope, or those that took place in the most isolated regions of the country. Tomorrow is Ash Wednesday and the beginning of the Lenten season that leads to Easter Sunday and the resurrection of Christ. For anyone who's ever wondered where the ashes come from, kids at St. Bartholomew Parish in Indiana gathered palms from last year and burned them into the ashes that will be anointed on Catholic foreheads tomorrow. For the school children at St. Bartholomew's, creating the ashes is not only a way to help Catholics open Lent, but also an opportunity to learn more about the penitential season. Still to come on Currents News, the latest on the deadly tornadoes that ripped through Alabama and how Catholic Charities is helping out. And after a devastating fire destroyed a church, firefighters found a surprise inside the gutted building. Stay with us to learn what they discovered. We'll be right back. Rescuers are searching through the rubble tonight in the aftermath of the deadly tornado that struck Alabama. And we are learning more about some of the 23 people who lost their lives. Kristen Holmes has the latest.
We haven't given up hope. We're still searching.
The survivors of Sunday's tornadoes in Lee County, Alabama, are still grappling with the devastation throughout their small community. And 2 days after the storms, the search continues.
They're searching not mainly for somebody, but just searching areas that have large piles of debris, searching through that debris to make sure that we miss nobody.
The cleanup process has also begun. Lee County officials are asking anyone in the area who can volunteer their time or resources to step forward and register with the local government. And for residents who still need help, the county wants them to know they're ready.
Tell us what those needs are. That's what we're here for. That's what we want to hear. We can't help you if we don't know what you need.
As for those killed, 23 victims have been identified, including 4 children.
It's a tragic situation. I can't thank this community enough for jumping in there and the support that I've seen firsthand. It's just been amazing.
Thank the Lord. And many of those who did survive, including 72-year-old Ernestine Reese, who is recovering from a broken hip, know just how lucky they are.
She's been strong throughout it all. Even in the middle of the devastation, she has maintained her faith.
In Lee County, Alabama, I'm Kristen Holmes.
Catholic Charities is gearing up to help the victims of this deadly tornado, aiding in search and rescue efforts. The Archdiocese of Mobile in Alabama has reached out to the pastors of the affected areas to offer assistance to those in need as well. The leader of the diocese, Archbishop Thomas Rhodey, is asking for prayers for all those who lost a loved one, a home, or a business. A fire at a West Virginia church ripped through the building and destroyed most of the structure, leaving behind a stunning discovery for firefighters. Not a single Bible or the church's cross were lost. As firefighters went through the charred wreckage, they noticed a stack of Bibles still intact and the crucifix still on the wall. The firefighters are saying God was on their side. The cause of the fire is still unclear. Well, that is Currents News. I'm Ed Wilkinson. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.